Hey guys, so this is going to be part two of my reading of the Lost Book of Lilith. Um, I'm just going to get right into it. And as I say, I will go into the actual breakdown and everything probably at the end of this video because I don't have a whole lot more to read, and I'm going to begin talking about it and bringing up the thoughts and things that I got from this very fascinating story, and I really enjoyed it. So, but just to give a little bit of a what I was reading about. And I really hope you guys don't just come here to the second part. Please go to the first part and listen to the entirety of the story because it all is going to come together and it's all going to make sense once you listen to the first part and the second part. Um, but basically, as I said, Lilith was, known to be the first wife of Adam before Eve, who basically at the end of the day just didn't want to submit to Adam's authority. And well, you know what? I'm just going to go on into the story because then I'm going to be starting to break down that I don't want to start right now because it's going to get me off track. So, guys, I met my replacement the next day on the shore of Pishon, Paradise's widest river. She was lying in the sun and dangling her feet in the water. The woman had lifted her hair from behind her neck, allowing it to cascade around her face. Her expression was one of total pleasure, so I approached her without the intent to disturb. I sat beside her and immersed my legs in the river. Are you separate? I asked her. She did not turn or divert her concentration from the sunlight. Since she had not opened her eyes, my form was not known to her. At that time in the garden, animals could speak, and and if you ask me, were more articulate than Earthman himself. Separate from what? She sounded. She responded lazily. Are you a part of Adam? Don't you know the story? Adam was all alone. He was going about giving names to the animals, and he noticed that each of them had a partner. He felt incomplete, as if he was missing something. He went to the Creator and asked that a mate be made for him. That night, a deep sleep fell upon Adam. Whilst he slept, the Creator took one of his ribs and created me. Adam first saw me in the light of dawn. How can one respond when she had been erased? That's how the story goes now. He was naming, he was lonely, she was made from him. No Lilith, no struggle, no creatrix. What is your name? I asked her. Woman, because I was created from the womb of man. Everyone knows. My question puzzled her enough to sit up and look at me. Her eyes grew wide with what she saw. You are like me. From my throat, I pulled a sound, which was part agreement, part laughter, and part assertion of my complete difference. If you are like me, do you come from him also? I do not come from him. I was made by El Shaddai, the creatrix. She gave birth to me in the manner that women give birth. I stared off into the distance. You too will give birth. If I'm going to make something, no one's told me about it. All I know is that I live in this garden. I eat from any of the fruits except the two that grow side by side like companions. If I even touch them, I will die. I had never been denied these fruits. My brief stay in Eden had been free of denial. I wondered why these fruits were forbidden from her. Woman looked at me from head to toe. Where do you come from? A place without trees and without rules. A place where desert meets water. I came only for a visit, but you mustn't tell Adam or the Creator. I can't talk to the Creator. Only Adam can. He tells me what the Creator says. Well, don't tell Adam. I came only to talk to you. Aha! Adam talks to the Creator and I talk to you. Woman held this idea close to her. Her eyes got bright and she bit the bottom of her lip as if to seal the thought. Who are you? I stood up. I am Lilith. Then I leaned down and pressed my lips against hers. We kissed each other for a long time. The taste of first woman feeding the second, while second woman reminded the first of what she had forgotten. When the kiss was finished, I spread my wings and flew away. As I flew away from Eden and its now forbidden trees, I understood my particular course. I had inhabited the garden, and now it was a place to which I could never return. I had fled to my cave and found happiness, but now that happiness was surrounded by memory. I could not repeat my initial departure. I had to go somewhere new and remake myself. Time passes beneath the span of my wings. The second woman in paradise does what she needs to get out of the walls. Perhaps her action is braver than my own. Woman renamed Eve outside of Eden brought the whole system down when she refused to follow others. Don't eat, he told her as she did. After she fed him the taste of knowledge, never again could the chain of command be so clear. They tried, Earthman and his creator, but outside of the garden walls, there were other forces to contend with. Their bodies bring them closer to death. Each day makes them a bit weaker and a little bit wiser. My experiences marked me, cut my features, altered the way I look, but I draw no closer to death than I did on my initial day out of Eden. I knew that she has children, sons, two of them at once, but I go neither to visit nor to look. Witnessing motherhood is something which I cannot bear. When I first met him, I did not imagine the connection. There were other people apart from their little family, so how was I to know? The mark drew me to him. It indicated that a danger hovered around him, which was strong enough to impact the places through which he walked. This was his curse, to walk endlessly, to wander, as he put it. If all men must bear curses, the son's was much better than the father's. Cain, who had seen the color of blood, was destined never to settle while his father remained in the same place until the day of his death. Facing his beloved earth and encountering both pain and nourishment, apart from the numbing solitude, it is mostly a blessing to be a wanderer. We saw each other on the plateau of a dry mountain. He was burning bush to set up one of his temporary camps. When I saw him, it was the smoke and fire I noticed and not the danger. I had learned some things from my weak angel. I now knew how to watch a man before approaching and how to gauge the outcome by his first steps. In bushes outside the uh, per- periphery, sorry guys, In bushes outside the periphery of what he intended to burn, I sat and observed. He set the mountain ablaze with grand gestures, as if he were offering a sacrifice. The flames made him smile and seemed to quiet his tumultuous soul. I waited until he finished, stood up, and called his attention to me. His eyes caught mine. I walked over. Why are you marked? He looked at me with terror and suspicion. How can you see it? I can see. Then why are you marked? Can you see? I am man without a home. I wandered here and there across the world. The path teaches many things. The sun was setting behind us and casting an orange glow across the charred mountain. A second fire, one of light, was burning in honor of our meeting. We stood facing each other. Wild, dark curls surrounded his thin face. As well as man, he had scarred, which arched from his temple down to his cheek. His deep brown eyes were set on me in a manner of an opponent. They offered an irrefutable challenge. I looked back as if to say, I accept, and took off running across the dry hills. He followed me. I listened to my own breath in the expectation of it igniting his. I ran until I came to a pit in the midst of my trail. The pit stopped me and held me still. He approached and was likewise slowed. Do you want to go down? He asked me. Let's go down. We climbed into the pit as if what would transpire between us was inevitable. Something was down there. Something was watching that was more ancient and schooled than me. The rocks were covered with a slimery mold. I looked at him and he knew. So I sat down to duel him with my darkness. He sat down. I lived in a house with a man and his two brothers in a city. I heard stories about his city and thought it would be a place to dwell. I thought that I'd go there and no part of my past would be able to find me. When I met the man, he brought me in. It was as if my desires were easily answered. In the spring, the man took a wife. She was small and nervous. I made her even more nervous, and she had no love for me. Why do you keep him here? She would question her husband in night whispers. Don't you see how close sin hovers around him? Still I stayed. The man never told me to go, and he never asked me any questions. Time passed simply and never required me to tell anything. I came home one day in the winter and noticed the blood. It started at the door, and it led me to the back where the man had his bedroom. I walked in and saw the woman clutching her baby in her arms. She shrieked when she saw me. Her voice was so high in anguish that all I could hear was the voice of the ground crying when she opened for the blood I shed. Then I looked at her and saw the fear. I saw, she saw, and there was nothing to do but walk out of the door and never to return. Why was her baby bleeding? Her baby was dead. The shadow was there. The shadow is here. I've got to come out of this pit, I told him, and we helped each other back out to the parched hills and the purple glow of evening. I'm glad we weren't together down there, he said to me. You would have gotten pregnant, and it would have not been a good thing. I know, I responded. It would not have been you who got me pregnant. Cain and I parted ways that day, but I knew that I would see him again. Maybe I knew that I would go back for more. I waited 2 months before I returned to the dry hills. The early rains had begun to fall, allowing the scorched earth to look up with promise. He was staring off across the horizon, and I approached and showed no element of surprise as I walked into his range of vision. "It's you," he said. "What do you want?" "To climb the mountain opposite to where you live and see if there are any flowers." "The shadow girl wants flowers." "Yes," I said, "she does." We descended Cain's Hills and closed the road that divides the valley. The earth on the other side was wet and muddy, and even we, the great wanderers, often found ourselves stuck in the mud. I think that was the only time I saw Cain laugh. His shoes stuck in the mud, keeping his feet from moving, and me stuck in my own mud, unable to come closer to him. What kind of vagabond can't even get out of Nod? Out of where? Nod, shadow girl. That's where we're stuck. The hills east of Eden. I'm not stuck anywhere near Eden. Then you don't see as well as I thought. Then he tried to move and couldn't. His laugh grew until it filled up the entire valley and filled me up too. As our laughter dropped, we were able to pull ourselves out and continued walking. We came to an orchard of grapefruit trees. I was pleased with myself for taking Cain away from his most recent place of settlement and into a landscape which spread out directly across from him. Still smiling, he asked me, "So I suppose you plan to offer me fruit?" The pause which followed his inquiry was heavy with history. I knew. My dark fugitive was her son, the son of woman and earthman, the twin she birthed with prior knowledge, the one who bloodied his father's soil. I couldn't explain because my presence defies the cycle of generations, makes me sense in the chain of fathers, makes no sense in the chain of fathers to sons. "Not the first fruit you've had?" I asked coyly. "Pick them," he said, and the smile disappeared. We climbed the mountain and moved from tall grasses to rock face to a forest of thin pines at the top. Amongst the trees, we peeled the grapefruits and bit into the tart slices. The juice sprayed around his lips. I fed him a piece of mine, then my finger, then my lips. We kissed in the pines and tasted the thin layer of citrus which covered the taste of our individual curses. His tongue in my mouth, his hair falling like blisters around my eyes. The soft wind of pines at the top of the mountain began lightly, but became more oppressive as his desire grew and the taste of grapefruit disappeared. "Stop," I said. "There's no reason for us. The curse got you scared." "The curses. Worried about who is going to disappear first." "It hardly matters. You're bound to be remembered." I left and he followed me to Mount Moriah. This time he appeared with the setting sun to my knowing expression. He asked to stay with me, and I said yes, even though I knew that the weight of his sorrow would eventually be too much for me to bear. I had chosen to leave Earthman in his domain, but Cain had been forced to leave. No matter what he wanted, Cain could not farm as his father did, and as he had done in his youth. The earth was commanded not to submit to him. His hands could only uncover the curse and never the blessing of harvest. For all of his reckless wandering, Cain was afraid. I knew him and tried to pretend that I didn't see. His hands would surround me, But in the same way that he could make nothing grow, he could make nothing rise in me. The motions were empty, and I wondered why I performed them. The outcast son of Earthman and Eve was not the match he had promised to be. When I slept beside Cain, I dreamt of the angel and his elusive fire. Why don't I let it go? Why don't you let it go? I said one morning as I swung around on top of him. Forget the sorrow and just burn. He grabbed hold of my shoulders and threw me down beneath him. It was not sorrow that he laid on me, but rage. His violent rage against the Creator, his Father, the ground, all ran together and was directed toward me, who was foolish enough to find herself beneath him. When it was through, and I had bruises across my immortal form, I walked away with scars and anger for Cain and the Trinity which opposed him. I have passed through the city that Cain built with the fury that still remained after he threw me. The first city, I suppose, named after his son Hanok, a gathering place for the disposed, all of whom believe themselves to be cursed by the soil, a city of murderers and curses. Even as the city is erected, Eve, the mother of all living, maintains her belief. Although her son violates and builds, she gives birth. She plants, and in her is planted another son, her beloved Seth, the replacement for the two, one slaughtered and one lost. That is the end of that story. And with the time that I have, I want to, I'm going to break down the whole story, hopefully in as minimal time as possible. Y'all know I can get a little long-winded, but I'm going to try to break it down so that you all can actually really understand what was going on in the story, because the way that it was written was not really written very well. There were, like, when people were talking, there were no quotation marks to mark when someone was talking. It wasn't a lot of commas. Some of the stuff kind of was running together. So forgive me for some of the stumbling that I did throughout the story, but some of it was me and some of it was the way that the story was written. So at the end of the day, the story is that Lilith is Adam's first wife. Adam wanted at the end of the day. Well, let's talk about the first day, because um, Lilith talked about the first day, and in that first day, she talked about how equal everything was, and how when she walked through the Garden of Eden, the nature, the plants, the trees, everything, the animals and everything which had not been named yet were all like a sense of oneness. Everything was a togetherness that you could feel just inside of you. And even the chemistry between her and Adam, the way she talked about how he looked at her and how he held her at night and so forth. Um, also, but then she said that the problem started the very next day when Adam said that the Creator told him to name things, which Lilith thought was a form of separation, and in a lot of ways it is, because it breaks that oneness. And now these are cats, these are all the dog family, these are all birds, these are all insect family. And so, it is what it is. I don't know the reason behind the naming and everything, but Adam got in his mind that he needed to name Lilith too, to which he named her woman. But unlike with Eve, she didn't come from him. There's a scripture in the Bible in the beginning of Genesis. I want to say it's in chapter 2, where it talks about in the beginning, God created man. In his image created he them, which was man and woman. And there are some instances where people say that that was him and Lilith. Then I think it may be in chapter 3 of Genesis, and y'all forgive me if I'm wrong. Kind of like my pastor say, read the whole Bible, you'll find it. Uh, but then it talks about how it breaks down the God putting Adam into a sleep and forming woman out of his rib, and then Adam say, "This is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. I'm gonna name you woman," and so forth. They start saying that that then was Eve. So that's why there's like two different creation stories in the Bible. But this is how people have explained it. So, getting back to Lilith, of course, like I say, she did not understand this whole separation and naming things. Apparently, and see, you got to bear with me though, that I have actually read two different accounts of this. Um, at the end of the day, she just didn't get it, she didn't understand it. And the other account that I read and finished last night, which was called The Book of Lilith, it talked about how she basically told him, like, I didn't hear the creator say that he needed anything named. That was just what Adam told her. Kind of like way Eve say that she can't talk to the creator, only Adam can, and Adam tells her like what he says. So, but it was a frustration that Lilith, in the book of Lilith, it goes into it a little bit more, where she talked about how she was really frustrated because she didn't understand why Adam, since they were brought forth together at the same time, they were like uh, they were partners together on this earth, and they both had dominion. And why didn't Adam leave like nothing for her to name? And that was a lot of what went into that explanation in the book of Lilith, was like, you didn't even, I couldn't even name a bug. Like you didn't, I couldn't name a spider. I couldn't name the ant. Like I couldn't name nothing. Like why? Like that don't make any sense to me. And that was what she was saying. Like even the creator was like, he didn't say nothing. He didn't say I could name nothing. And basically, Adam was pretty much just like, "Yep, no, I got it. No, we didn't need you for nothing. We got you. And by the way, your name is woman. And Lilith was like, no, my name is Lilith. Don't you know me? Don't you know who I am? My name is Lilith. Like, why are you trying to give me a name? Like, I don't. But in all of that, I guess it gave Adam a type of authority. And I never have read from the Bible to the lost books of Lilith to the book of Lilith that I read, where God gave Adam himself only the dominion. I don't see that anywhere. Even if we go back to the Bible, before the fall, and please remember, before the fall, they were like equal. you know, Even though Eve was taken from his side, God didn't say, oh, man is above you or whatever. That came after the fall. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But even him and Eve had that same togetherness, just that Eve took on that role of being subservient or whatever, or being his beneath him and whatever. Um, Whereas, like I say, as the story goes, Lilith didn't want to do that. She wanted to be a partner like she was created. Um, so, in the span of time, she left. And I don't think, from reading the book of Lilith, I don't think that she just like, he just wanted her to be subservient and she just like, yep, no, I'm out of here, I'm going, I'm finna go. and she just flew off. No. Um, I think it took a little time because from what I read in the other book, it was a little bit more of like she was just frustrated and just like trying to understand and trying to question Adam. Like, and then she even said, the book even said she was just like, why didn't the creator like correct him, correct his behavior? Because like he don't have dominion over me, you know, is her thinking. And so even the sex thing, if you notice, um, it never said that Lilith and Adam had sex. And even in this account that I just read, or in the book of Lilith, does it ever say that she had sex with Adam? What it did say, it did go into more detail in the book of Lilith that he wanted to have sex with her, and basically, like he was basically trying to almost like rape her and just, you know, get on top of her. And in that account, she was like, but you didn't ask, you know? Um, and also, nowhere in either of these accounts did it even say that she had to like lay under him and give herself to him. It didn't say that. Matter of fact, nowhere in either of these accounts did it tell them anywhere to be fruitful and multiply and all that kind of stuff, you know? So I don't know. But Lilith wanted it to be, it wasn't that she just wanted it to be that, like, uh, I'm just not going to have sex with you. I'm just not going to, you know, lie under you. She was saying, um, why don't sometime I be on top, you be on top? You know, we do things together, like we do things in a partnership. It don't always have to be that I have to lay beneath you all the time, like you're my master or something like that, which is what is the attitude that Adam had. So fast forward, um, it angered her. It said that she, I guess, kind of, you know, in a way, she was a creator. Adam was a creator in so many ways. And so she commanded herself to be gone out of the Garden of Eden. And it says that she sprouted wings and flew away. Um, and it don't even say that that was a curse either. I don't know. Maybe they had the ability to do that at that point. I don't know. Maybe they could turn themselves into whatever, but it didn't say anywhere that that was a curse. So she went off to the desert and to the whole thing, um, flew off. The angels came to her, told her basically that she needed to come back. And from the accounts that I have always read, that seemed to be the curse of Lilith, is that she didn't go back when she was told. That seemed like that was like the rebellion or whatever to me. And so she refused because at the end of the day, it's like, well, am I still going to be under Adam's authority? Am I still going to have to submit and everything? Yeah, no, I don't want that. Not going to do it. And so, um, with that being the case, you know, the story goes that, you know, there was these three beings or whatever. And I don't know if I pronounced those names right. I was just trying the best that I could. But one who seemed to like always hide himself back in the cave or whatever, Sangraloff or whatever, he is the one that she became intimate with. And he bore a demon child. Um, and so um, once the baby was born, you know, she was able to keep the baby. I don't know for how long, but she was able to keep the baby for a little bit, you know. And as we know, it says that he was there. She couldn't see him, but he was there beholding her and the baby or whatever. But at the end of the day, the baby died, and that became her curse because she would not go back and, I guess, submit to Adam or whatever. And so the baby died, and subsequently, all of the babies and whatever's that she ever created were cursed to die. Um, so anyway, let's get back to the story. So she did though, finally go back. Both accounts read in both books that I read that she did eventually go back to Eden. It's just that uh, Eve was already there. So Adam must have asked pretty much immediately, like, I don't want to be alone by myself. So uh, she they created Eve uh, from him. And here's kind of a question that it's like my own thinking. I am wondering, did Eve was Eve made from Adam so that she could be more like submissive to him or whatever, or like have his mind so that she would be more obedient to him? Is that why she was made from him like that? I don't know. Y'all can tell me what y'all think. But anyway, both accounts read basically that at the end of the day, she was trying to talk to Eve basically and tell her like, girl, you ain't got to submit to this. Like you ain't got to, just be up under him, whatever, but he just lord over you and the whole thing. And, you know, Eve was just like, why not? Like, like and it was very evident that she was very, very naive, very, very just, I'm just going to do what my man say, whatever type way. Eve basically trying to tell her like, you could have your own mind, you could use your own mind, whatever. I guess Eve wasn't for it. She didn't want to. But if we go back to the apple, she had her own mind. She used her mind then to do apparently what she even told Lilith she knew not to do was like not to touch the certain fruit trees, and she did that anyway. So I don't know. But Lilith told her like, why? Like, why can you like why are things forbidden for you? Like when I was here, there was no forbidding of nothing. Like we just lived and whatever. It wasn't no you can't do this, you can't touch this, you can't talk to God, you can't hit like why, you know? And that was Lilith's standpoint. Like, you know. Um anyway, so she had the demon babies or whatever off by herself. um, they died or whatever. And that is ultimately, from my understanding, from both accounts of the stories, what caused her to be mad and angry at God was that her babies were cursed and died or whatever. And so subsequently, she basically, when she went back to the garden, now these are two different accounts, remember, and I hope I'm not losing y'all or getting y'all confused. If I am, put a note in there, I'll explain it to you. But um, they were kind of like all talking or whatever, and she it's kind of hard to explain it without me going into. I don't want to confuse y'all, but at the end of the day, the account in the Bible where it talks about Eve was talking to the snake and the serpent, and the serpent beguiled her to eat the fruit or whatever. In the book of Lilith that I read, that was kind of like giving hint to like the serpent was Lilith, because she was talking to Eve, trying to get Eve to change and I guess be more independent or whatever. And so God saw that, and Adam saw that, and basically cursed her, and cursed Eve at that time for listening and just the whole thing. Cast them out the garden, just the whole thing. And Lilith got so angry and everything that she did curse God, and she did say basically that um, I'm going to curse every woman's child at infancy, basically at first birth, if they are unnamed. Now, why? I don't know. I don't know what the naming has to do with it, but that was her vow that she was going. If the child is unnamed, it's going to become mine, and basically, I'm going to kill it. Anyway, so let's go on to the fact that at the end toward of the story, both stories, But the end part of the story that I was reading to you guys, and hopefully you all understood. Basically, at the end of the day, she met Lot, is what that was. You know, Adam and Eve had Lot, and no, I'm sorry, y'all, had Cain. She met Cain, not Lot. She met Cain. Cain and Abel were, of course, Adam and Eve's twins. And so, you know, Cain's offering was not accepted, Abel's was. And so, um, basically, when she met Cain, being a wanderer out in the world, because she was one herself, when they met and came together, and he started talking to her and telling her, like, it's like she knew who he was, but they talked and he explained the situation and all that kind of stuff. And what he said in the account that I read was that basically, like, they presented their offerings to God. And like when God had uh accepted Abel's, later on, when they got back like alone in the forest or whatever, Abel started like teasing him and like putting it in his face that God didn't accept your offering or whatever, you need to do better and blah blah blah. And so he say that's the account reads that that's what made him mad, and he ultimately killed Abel. That's that's how it read. So, and of course, I mean, you can't commit murder, so the ground opens up, cries out, whatever. God curses Cain to have the mark on him, that he's the marked man, just like Lilith was marked as well. And that's why she was able to see his mark, because, you know, they say time began to fade the marks, but she could still see it. And that's how she knew who he was also, despite the fact that, you know, she could fly back and forth or go back and forth, whatever, and see what was going on and everything, which is what she did. But anyway, she knew who he was. At the end of the day, she and Cain got intimate, and basically, the part that I thought was so funny was that she basically was saying that his sex wasn't no good. Basically, is what it was saying. It's kind of funny to me. But she was like, because he was so angry and he was so violent and everything. And like where it said that he put the rage of his father and his God and the whole situation into me. Uh, and basically, it wasn't any good. And it's like he ultimately raped her, is what I got out of it, is that he had raped her, because she says she got up and had bruises on her because he had been just like so rough with her. Um, and so, and I guess that's also what made it not good. He probably was just humping and pumping and, you know, real quick got off, and, you know, it just wasn't no good. And she kind of regretted it or whatever. And I guess she preferred the demon sex, you know, that she had, because she just talked about that as a wonderful experience or whatever. Um, but it didn't produce good, you know. So anyway, that's really about it. Um, that's really about it, except in the book of Lilith, it talked about her meeting Cain, went into a little bit more depth of it, but it basically said that she and Cain got together and built a city, because they was just like, well, you know, look, we out here on our own, we doing this, you know, we got to be wanderers, or that we might as well get together, and, you know, we might as well be together, you know, whatever. And so it says that they basically um, built this city, and the city became like a city of like robbers and rapers and murderers and things like that. And basically, at the end of the other book, the book of Lilith, it was called Babylon. That's what they called it, just Sin City. So, and that was the end of that story. That's how it ended. So, you guys, I'm gonna cut the video off. I pray that you all got something out of this, that you have some type of understanding. please don't hesitate to hit me up. And if I can help answer a question or whatever, to give you a little bit more understanding, I would love to do that. That's the story. Next video or videos or whatever, however, long I feel like, I need to go into this. I'm going to come back with a little bit more breakdown, some of the questions that I had, maybe answer some of you guys' questions, and just kind of go into my take on it and how I feel about it. I was really trying to just like tell the story and not put my 2 cents in. I was really trying to do that. But in the next videos that follow, I'm really going to do that because I got a lot out of it. I really got a lot out of it. You guys can go online on your own if you want to go back and read the story of your on your own. It's called The Lost Book of Lilith. So if it'll help you to go back, read it on your own, and then come back and, ask questions or whatever, or give me your interpretation of what you got. I'm not even trying to make it like, you got to ask me questions because you don't understand. Uh, I'm just saying, if you have it, let's discuss it. So you guys, I'm going to turn the video off. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Hit the notification. Um, so that you'll know when I upload new videos. And until the next video, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until the next video, see you next time.